In the mysterious world of Norse mythology, there are two very different stories about how everything began. One story says the world was made from the body of a giant who was killed by the gods. The other story says humans were made from trees by the same gods. How can both stories be true? These two stories are so different that it makes us wonder. Are these ancient tales real, or have they changed over time? Have people added or changed parts of the stories to make them more exciting or to fit different beliefs? As we look closely at these myths, we will question if the stories we know today are really the same ones that people believed in long ago. Are they just old stories that got mixed up? Or is there a deeper truth hidden within them? Before we dive into unraveling the truth behind these two different stories, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment with your thoughts or questions. Your support helps us bring more fascinating content to you. Now, get ready to question everything you thought you knew about the Norse gods, their world, and how it all began. Let's explore these ancient mysteries together. Norse mythology, rich with gods, giants, and cosmic battles, has fascinated people for centuries. At the heart of these tales is Odin, the All-Father, a god of wisdom, war, and magic. Central to Norse beliefs are the stories of how the world and humanity were created. However, these creation myths present contradictions that lead us to question their origins and authenticity. Two primary stories tell of creation in Norse mythology. In one, the world is fashioned from the body of the giant Ymir, a tale of violence and transformation. In another, humanity is created from two trees, a narrative that highlights life's connection to nature. These differing accounts raise several questions. How can such contrasting stories coexist? What do they reveal about the beliefs of the Norse people? And most importantly, how can we ascertain the authenticity of these ancient narratives? To explore these questions, we will delve into the details of both creation stories, examining their symbolism, historical context, and the influences that may have shaped them. We will compare the myths, analyzing the contradictions and questioning the role of Odin in each. Furthermore, we will consider the authenticity of these tales, scrutinizing the nature of oral traditions and the impact of cultural exchanges. We will also engage with contemporary debates, looking at how modern interpretations and online discussions grapple with these contradictions. By questioning the validity of various answers and exploring alternative interpretations, we aim to gain a deeper understanding of these myths and their significance. Join us on this journey through the complex and captivating world of Norse mythology, as we unravel the mysteries and contradictions of Odin's creation stories. Chapter 1: The Creation of the World from Ymir. In the beginning, there was only a vast, empty void known as Ginnungagap. To the north lay Niflheim, a realm of ice and cold, while to the south was Muspelheim, a land of fire and heat. Where the icy rivers of Niflheim met the fiery sparks of Muspelheim, the melting ice created the primordial giant, Ymir. Ymir was not alone in this primordial chaos. From the melting ice also emerged Audhumla, a great cow whose milk nourished Ymir. As Ymir slept, a male and a female giant sprang from his armpits, and his legs produced a six-headed son. These beings would become the ancestors of the frost giants, a race that would frequently clash with the gods. Meanwhile, Audhumla licked the salty ice blocks for sustenance. From these ice blocks emerged Buri, the first of the Aesir gods. Buri had a son named Bor, who married Bestla, a giantess. Together, they had three sons, Odin, Vili, and Vi. Odin and his brothers saw the chaotic and dangerous world created by Ymir and his descendants. They decided to bring order to this chaos by slaying Ymir. After a fierce battle, they succeeded in killing the giant. From Ymir's wounds, a great flood of blood emerged, drowning many of the frost giants. Only a few survived, escaping to the edges of the world. The brothers then set about creating the world from Ymir's body. Ymir's blood became the oceans and rivers. Flesh, his flesh formed the earth. Bones, his bones became the mountains. Teeth, his teeth and shattered bones formed rocks and boulders. Skull, his skull was lifted up to form the sky, held in place by four dwarves representing the cardinal directions. Brain, His brain was scattered to form the clouds. Eyebrows. His eyebrows became Midgard, the realm of humans. This violent act of creation transformed chaos into order, establishing the world as we know it. Odin, Vili, and Ve created a structured cosmos from the disarray left by Ymir's existence, laying the foundations for life and the divine realms. Chapter 2. The creation of humanity from trees. With the world shaped and ordered, the gods turned their attention to populating it. As they walked along the seashore, Odin and his brothers came across two trees. Recognizing the potential in these natural forms, they decided to create the first humans. The gods transformed the trees into human beings, each contributing a unique gift to bring them to life. Odin gave them breath and life. Vili bestowed upon them understanding and the power of movement. Ve granted them senses such as sight and hearing, as well as their outward appearance. These first humans were named Ask, Ash, and Embla Elm, reflecting their origin from trees. Ask and Embla were placed in Midgard, the world fashioned from Ymir's eyebrows, to live and thrive. They became the progenitors of the human race, connecting humanity to both the divine and the natural world. Chapter 3. Contradictions between the two creation stories. The two creation stories present clear contradictions. Nature of creation. Ymir's body. The world is created from a violent act, with Ymir's body parts forming the earth and sky. Trees. Humanity is created through a peaceful transformation, with trees being given life and senses. Role of Odin. Ymir's body. Odin is a warrior and a conqueror, leading the charge to slay Ymir and bring order from chaos. Trees. Odin is a giver of life, breathing life into the first humans and bestowing gifts of understanding and senses. Symbolism. Ymir's body symbolizes the transformation of chaos into order, reflecting a cosmic battle and the raw power of creation. Trees represents a harmonious connection to nature, emphasizing growth, life, and the nurturing aspects of creation. These contradictions raise important questions about the authenticity and origins of these myths. Are they separate tales that evolved independently, or are they different aspects of a single, complex narrative? Chapter 4. Authenticity and historical context. The authenticity of these myths is a topic of much debate. Norse mythology was primarily transmitted orally, which means stories could change and evolve over time. This oral tradition raises several points of consideration. Alterations over time. Oral traditions are subject to change. Storytellers might adapt tales to their audience, leading to different versions of the same story. How can we determine which version is the most authentic? Cultural influences. Norse mythology was not isolated. The Vikings traveled widely, encountering various cultures and beliefs. These interactions could have influenced their myths, incorporating elements from other traditions. What impact did these cultural exchanges have on the authenticity of Norse myths? Written records. The primary sources of Norse mythology, such as the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda, were written down centuries after the myths were first told. The authors, like Snorri Sturluson, might have had their interpretations or biases. How much do these written records reflect the original stories? Historical context. The myths were shaped by the society and culture of the Norse people. Their worldview, values, and environment influenced the stories they told. Understanding this context can provide insights into the myth's meanings and origins. Chapter 5. Symbolism and interpretation. Continued. Symbolism in Ymir's body. The story of Ymir's body being used to create the world is laden with symbolism. Chaos to order. Ymir represents primordial chaos, and his body's transformation into the world symbolizes the gods bringing order to this chaos. This act reflects the Norse view of the universe as a place where order must constantly be maintained against the forces of chaos. Sacrifice and creation. The violent dismemberment of Ymir echoes themes of sacrifice seen in other mythologies, where the death of a primordial being gives rise to life and creation. This motif suggests that creation often comes at a great cost. Natural elements. Each part of Ymir's body becoming a part of the world underscores the interconnectedness of all things in Norse cosmology. It emphasizes that the world is a living, breathing entity formed from the very essence of a primordial giant. Symbolism in the creation of humanity. The creation of Ask and Embla from trees also carries deep symbolic meaning. Life from nature. Transforming trees into humans signifies a profound connection between humanity and nature. It suggests that humans are an integral part of the natural world, sharing a common origin with all living things. Divine gifts. The gods' contributions to the creation of humans highlight the importance of life, intellect, and senses. This emphasizes that these qualities are divine gifts, underscoring the sacredness of human existence. Growth and renewal. Trees are symbols of growth, renewal, and endurance. Creating humans from trees implies that humanity is meant to grow, adapt, and endure, much like the trees from which they were formed. Chapter 6. Debates and skepticism in online communities. Modern interpretations and discussions about Norse mythology often highlight the contradictions and question the authenticity of these myths. Online communities provide a platform for enthusiasts, scholars, and skeptics to share their views. Here are some common debates. Authenticity of oral traditions. Evolution of stories. Many argue that oral traditions naturally evolve. Storytellers adapt and embellish tales, leading to variations. This raises the question of which version of the myth is the most authentic. Are we hearing the original story, or has it been altered over centuries? Influence of scribes. When the myths were finally written down, scribes like Snorri Sturluson might have introduced their interpretations or biases. Some scholars suggest that these written versions could reflect Christian influences, given that the scribes were often Christian themselves. How much do these written records reflect the true essence of Norse mythology? Cultural influences. Viking interactions. The Vikings' extensive travels brought them into contact with various cultures and beliefs. These interactions likely influenced their own stories. For instance, similarities between Norse and other Indo-European creation myths suggest a shared cultural heritage or mutual influence. Comparative mythology. Scholars often compare Norse myths with those of other cultures, noting similarities and differences. This comparative approach helps identify common themes and unique elements, but it also raises questions about the distinctiveness of Norse mythology. To what extent were Norse myths shaped by these cultural exchanges? Symbolic interpretations. Literal versus symbolic. There is ongoing debate about whether these myths should be taken literally or symbolically. Some argue that the myths are allegories for natural phenomena, moral lessons, or existential questions. What are the deeper meanings behind these stories, and how do they reflect the Norse worldview? Personal interpretations. Modern readers often bring their interpretations to these ancient myths. Online discussions reveal a wide range of perspectives, from historical and archaeological analyses to personal and spiritual interpretations. How do these diverse interpretations enrich our understanding of Norse mythology? To gain a deeper understanding of the contradictions and authenticity of these creation myths, it is essential to question the common explanations provided by scholars and enthusiasts. Here are some critical questions to consider. Alterations over time. If oral traditions naturally evolve, can we ever identify a single, authentic version of the myth? How do we account for the changes and adaptations made over time? What were the intentions of the storytellers who passed down these myths? Were they merely preserving history, or were they also adapting the stories to fit their contemporary cultural and social contexts? Influence of external cultures. Integration of elements. How did the Norse integrate elements from other cultures into their own mythology? Are these borrowed elements seamlessly blended, or do they create noticeable inconsistencies? Authenticity of blended myths. Can a myth that incorporates elements from other cultures still be considered authentically Norse? What defines the authenticity of a myth? Symbolic meanings. Interpreting symbolism. How do we interpret the symbolic meanings in these creation stories? Are there universally accepted interpretations, or do they vary widely among scholars and enthusiasts? Literal versus metaphorical. To what extent should we read these myths as literal accounts versus metaphorical or allegorical stories? How does this distinction affect our understanding of their authenticity? The contradictions in the stories of Odin's creation of the world and humanity challenge our understanding of Norse mythology. These myths, passed down through oral tradition and later recorded by Christian scribes, have likely evolved over time and been influenced by various cultural exchanges. By questioning the authenticity of these narratives and examining their symbolic meanings, we gain a deeper insight into the complex and rich world of Norse mythology. Exploring the debates and skepticism in online communities further highlights the diverse interpretations and ongoing fascination with these ancient stories. Ultimately, the contradictions and questions surrounding Odin's creation myths invite us to engage critically with mythology, understanding that these tales reflect the values, beliefs, and worldview of the Norse people.